June 9th, 2025 marked the first anniversary of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's third term. The BJP is celebrating his 11th year as the Prime Minister. But if we observe closely the first year of Modi 3.0, we will know that it was marked by his single biggest ideological switch. Even as he faced troubling questions around intelligence failure on the heels of the Pahalgam terror attack, his government sprung a surprise by agreeing to conduct a caste enumeration along with the decadal census. Hi, I am Ajoy Ashirwad, political editor at The Wire, and today we'll discuss what changed in Modi's third term and what remained constant. Caste census had been the opposition's primary agenda for over 2 years, with not merely socialist leaders like Akhilesh Yadav or Tejaswi Yadav, but also Congress leader Rahul Gandhi stoking the demand at every fora consistently. They argued that an enumeration of caste could help the government identify social and financial vulnerabilities of the marginalized groups in a better manner, which in turn would enable it to channel welfare measures more efficiently. Such a demand was met with both derision and ridicule from the BJP. None other than the Prime Minister attacked the opposition for taking Bharat back to primitive times by raking up caste politics. He asserted that he could only see 4 caste groups in the country.
Number 1. Number 2, एक्सेल का मतलब क्या है? मतलब हर परिवार में जाना, घर घर छापा मारना, अगर किसी अनाज के डिब्बे में किसी महिला ने अपने गहने छपा के रखे हैं, उसको भी एक्सरे किया जाएगा.
And they were the poor, women, youth and farmers. On one instance actually, he termed the demand for a caste census as an urban Naxal thought, not to mention many other senior leaders who rushed to call a caste census a divisive demand. However, 2024 Lok Sabha polls permanently changed the contours of such a wanton polarization around caste census. Having to depend on his allies, Nitish Kumar, Chirag Paswan and N. Chandrababu Naidu, for whom caste census was as significant as Hindutva is to the BJP, Prime Minister Modi could no longer be the leader who could dictate the course of Indian politics. His ideological turnaround began when merely 2 months after his re-election in 2024, his government relented under pressure from its allies and opposition parties and asked the Union Public Service Commission, or what is known as UPSC, to withdraw its advertisement for recruiting 45 lateral entry positions in bureaucracy. The lateral entries, we all know, had come under the scanner not only for alleged undemocratic decisions but also for evading reservations in appointments. While pulling back its advertisement, a senior minister, Jitendra Singh, acknowledged that the decision was taken with the Modi government's commitment to quote-unquote social justice and empowerment in mind. This was Modi 3.0's first move that appeared to be an admission of the fact that an overtly Hindutva politics against the backdrop of its campaign around the consecration ceremony of the newly built Ram temple at Ayodhya may have alienated a large section of OBCs and Dalits from the BJP's fold. The Modi regime is marked by its long strides in gaining the confidence of non-dominant caste groups since 2014. However, the 2024 Lok Sabha results indicated a strong reversal of the trend. Although the Modi-led BJP had been brushing off caste-based social justice talk as opposition's opportunistic vote bank politics, it has often depended on it for electoral victories, although by giving it an entirely different color. Both these political forces have a distinctly different approach towards caste-based mobilization. Socialist parties like Samajwadi Party or Rashtriya Janata Dal and many more, and more recently the Congress too, have spoken about caste-based welfare measures as the necessary long road for democratization and equitable distribution of resources.
इस देश में सिर्फ 2 जातें हैं, एक अमीर है, एक गरीब है। अच्छा भैया, अगर 2 ही जाते हैं तो आप कौन सी जात के हो? आप गरीब तो नहीं हो, आप 24 घंटा नया सूट पहनते हो, करोड़ों रुपए का सूट पहनते हो, आप कहाँ के गरीब? और अगर 2 ही जात है तो आप ओबीसी कहाँ के बन गए? भैया सुबह एक नई ड्रेस आती है, उसके बाद दोपहर में अलग, शाम को अलग, और हर रोज अलग अलग अलग। और फिर ये झूठ बोल रहे हैं कि मैं ओबीसी वर्ग का आदमी हूं। नरेंद्र मोदी ओबीसी नहीं पैदा हुआ, नरेंद्र मोदी जनरल कास्ट का आदमी पैदा हुआ। उसकी जात को ओबीसी बीजेपी ने सिर्फ गुजरात में बनाया। ये 24 घंटा हिंदुस्तान के पिछड़े लोगों से झूठ बोल रहे हैं।
But the BJP has merely mobilized marginalized groups amongst OBCs and Dalits by increasing their representation in political and constitutional offices, while unabashedly pursuing market-driven growth and weakening government's institutions from which marginalized groups directly benefited in the past. At the same time, the Saffron Party has often pitted one OBC or Dalit groups against countless others in different parts of India as a polarizing tactic to build its own numerical majority in elections. Resultantly, it has engineered a disunity amongst OBC and Dalits even when it has projected itself as a party of the poor. However, the manufactured hysteria generated by the BJP around the Ayodhya temple in the run-up to the 2024 Lok Sabha elections and coinciding speeches by certain upper caste saffron leaders that threatened constitutional guarantees to OBCs and Dalits undid many of the Saffron Party's political gains, and which reflected in a way Modi surprisingly lost his majority in the Lok Sabha. The outcome was a steep fall after the BJP's repeated claims of crossing the 400 mark, Agli Bar 400 Par, in the Lok Sabha polls, and also a strong enough indication of the diminishing returns of Hindutva and muscular nationalism. The consistent show of its commitment to the constitution and attacks on the opposition for carrying out a false narrative after the Lok Sabha polls signaled not only BJP's confusion but also its helplessness to evade social justice politics anymore. Earlier, the Modi government was non-committal on the issue of caste census. While the Prime Minister dismissed it as an urban Naxal thought, his party BJP could not oppose it entirely. It supported the caste survey in Bihar but opposed the idea of a caste count and subcategorization in the Supreme Court, citing that it was too complicated an exercise. It also appointed Justice Rohini Commission but refused to release its findings, fearing its political impact. So it was a situation where BJP was neither here nor there, and it was like kind of confused. But by announcing officially now that it will conduct a caste census, Modi has finally acknowledged the relevance of caste as a political vantage point officially. He had severely criticized the demand for caste census at every occasion before, but has now realized that he can't be at the helm of a diverse Bharat by running it down anymore. His surrender on this front is perhaps the second biggest occasion when Modi was forced to withdraw his steps. The first being his decision to reverse the contentious agrarian laws after a year-long farmers' agitation in 2020 and 2021. Last 1 year has showed that the Prime Minister in his third term has found his once potent political combination of Hindutva and muscular nationalism no longer sufficient to remain in control. He has been forced to publicly acknowledge the significance of caste politics and add it to his strategic political mix. However, unlike when he withdrew those agrarian laws, Modi may have opened a much tougher battlefront for himself in this case. By agreeing to conduct a caste census, he has made himself vulnerable to the pressure of giving his nod to a more concrete demand that the opposition has raised, that of removing the 50% cap on reservations. Rahul Gandhi and other opposition leaders have openly called the 50% cap on reservations as artificial and unrepresentative. Will Modi now concede to the opposition's call? Will he agree to remove the 50% cap on caste-based reservations after he agreed to the demand for a caste count or a caste census? He had earlier agreed to the Sangh Parivar's persistent demand of implementing 10% reservations for the economically weaker sections that effectively gave quota in jobs and education to the so-called upper caste groups. at a time when Modi is facing a severe diplomatic isolation in the aftermath of Operation Sindoor and a possibly united assertion in the future by Muslim groups against the contentious Waqf Amendment Act, will he be able to handle the demand to remove the 50% cap on reservations? Well, both a yes or a no in this case will have a long-lasting impact on his political career, as also it will have seismic impacts on Indian polity. Historically, populist leaders across the world have fallen when they overestimate their maneuvering skills and open up too many battlefronts to handle. The remaining 4 years in Modi's third term will surely be his biggest test as a leader, even as the BJP has been beating his drum on the occasion of his 11th year as the Prime Minister. But in his third term as the Prime Minister of a coalition government, Narendra Modi is no longer the unyielding leader we all knew in the last 2 terms. Thank you.